Well, the trial continues. Trial of a Time Lord, the second story as part of that, which is Mind Warp. Some interesting stuff in this one. This actually, I had a lot of fun with this, the more that I think about it. It's hard for me to call it amazing overall, but there's a lot that's enjoyable about this. For one thing, it does something that I had kind of expressed a desire that I wished the previous story, the one that kicked off this whole thing, had done, which is to take better advantage of the framing device, to actually use the the trial setting and the fact that we are not watching this in real time, but we're watching other characters watch it. Because, like, the extent of it in the last one was basically the occasional bit of lampshade hanging, and, covering some things like, how do we know that this happened when the doctor wasn't there? Like, that's logistical stuff. They didn't do much to properly take advantage of it as far as using it to tell the story in more interesting ways. They actually do that here. Because partway into the story, something happens to the doctor that clearly messed with his head, and he doesn't clearly remember the events. So suddenly, instead of just sitting back there and arguing the whole time, he's now watching what the Valyard is claiming happened and going, wait, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't seem like me. It can't be that. No, it's got to be this. So just bringing in that element where he doesn't exactly know, and this is very clearly coming from a bit of an unreliable narrator kind of situation. And it's a situation where he was there, but also doesn't remember. But he doesn't know if he's having the truth revealed to him or some fabrication revealed to him. That is taking proper advantage of the framing device in a way the last story just flatly didn't. It just didn't at all. And as far as the story goes, I love that it kicks off with a planet with a pink ocean. It's just pretty, and the effect looks surprisingly good. This episode overall actually looked pretty decent. There's a couple of bits of visual wonkiness. There's like an alien that shows up towards the end that like doesn't matter. It's just there for, negotiations in the Sacred Commerce Hall or whatever the heck it's called, and it's just a very janky mask. But like other than that, the outfits are decent. The sets are pretty good. Like it's not impressive, but like it's visually not too bad, especially for this era and how this era could be. I will say, I'm not sure how I feel about the use of just not even like reminiscent of, but just flat out samurai gear being thrown onto Brian Blessed. That having been said, Brian Blessed is in this. Oh man, he's a hoot. I really like him in this. Like, you know how some actors you're like, oh yeah, they tend to turn it up to 11. Brian Blessed never does anything below a 9.5. You look up bombast in the dictionary and it will be his picture. And he is so perfect for this kind of character who, is the warrior who wants to go out and fight and if he's going to die, he's going to die in a war, fighting gloriously. And the joy in his face talking about how wonderful it'll be when he dies in battle and then goes on to the next life where he will get to keep fighting. The glee in his face at proclaiming that he's wonderful. He's wonderful. I love him in this. I also I really like, I'm going to call him the surgeon, since obviously just calling him the doctor is confusing with the doctor. But there's this medical guy trying to, I haven't really described the plot. I'm not sure I will. Like, the plot's functional. But there's this guy, working on transferring this other guy's consciousness into a new body. And the thing is, like, he is very emotionally clamped down. He's very monotone almost. But it's hard to explain. If you see it, I think you'll get it. It's hard to explain, but it's not the monotone, it's not the flatness that comes from a bad actor who doesn't know how to play the scene or doesn't know what emotions to bring or can't bring proper emotions to the scene. It is an acting choice to play the character as someone who does not get deeply emotionally invested. This never comes off as a failure to act. This is a deliberate acting choice that this guy just is interested in the science and the advancement of what he's doing, but he's really not particularly emotionally invested. He doesn't care at a deep level. Like, if he fails, he's going to get killed. But he's just very matter-of-fact about the whole thing. He has a moment where his patient goes into cardiac arrest, and before he goes to address that, he is sure to pause and sip the tea he's holding before putting that down and going dealing with a guy having a cardiac arrest. I actually like this surgeon a lot, and it's a very carefully balanced character. We also get Syl back, the sort of skeevy little green sluggish guy. So he's back along with, I forget exactly what his title, and basically his leader, who is the one that needs a new body for the interesting reason that his brain is expanding and it's getting crushed by his skull. Like, okay. And that got Kiv. That's his name. He's played by the same actor who played General Stahl in the Sontaran two-parter in Series 4. Stahl the Undefeated!
Oh, that's not a very good nickname. What if you do get defeated? Stahl, they're not quite so undefeated anymore, but never mind.
That guy. And I didn't recognize him visually, but he started like issuing like orders and commands. I'm like, I've heard that voice. I know that shouty command voice. And then I looked him up like, yeah, I was right. So, yeah, that's cool. I should do something at some point about the actors who have returned, played characters in Classic and in heck, I could do a video just on actors who play more than one character in Classic. But anyway, that's a sidebar. But like the performances are pretty solid. And it's not a particularly intricate plot, but given the framing device, it doesn't need to be. Because the additional layers come from the fact that the doctor doesn't remember and is saying this doesn't seem right. And we're questioning the narrative that we're being shown. That's where we get the extra layer. So the plot itself doesn't need to be super intricate or super layered, because the additional layer is the framing device. This is actually, the more I think about it, this is actually a pretty solid piece of work. That having been said, I haven't really talked about Perry or the Doctor yet. So 2 things about Perry. Perry has kind of grown on me the more I've seen her. She has a spark. She has spunk that I really appreciate. And that does also get appreciated by some of the other characters, especially Brian Blessed's character, in this as well. There's even a couple of nice little moments that she has with the doctor. Like, the doctor says that they need to give a patient the skedaddle treatment, which she recognizes as code for, we're about to run. And there's some stuff like that. And the thing is, though, I'm feeling like I kind of like Perry. I also feel like the show hates her. We keep on hitting the issue of she really does not seem to want to be with the doctor. And some stories that's true, like from the very beginning. And then there's stories like this where when she sees Syl, given what Syl put her through back in Vengeance on Varos, she says, like, I want to leave. I want to leave right now. And the doctor ignores her. Doesn't even really make a counter argument. Because the doctor doesn't really know what's going on at that point. So we can't even make an argument of we can't leave, people are in danger, which was something he did in the previous one. This one, she sees someone that she is deathly afraid of and does not want to ever see ever again, says, I want to leave and I want to leave right now. And the doctor freaking ignores her. The hell. And that's before weird wonky stuff goes on with his brain, because there's the whole back end where you have to try and track at what point is he kind of under mind control to a certain degree? Or I suppose if you really want to give a harsh reading of the doctor, was he ever? Because that's what the Valyard's trying to present, that the doctor, once scared for his own life, immediately abandons his companion. And actually, there's a pretty fair call out from the Valyard about the fact that the companions are put in life-threatening danger more often than the Doctor. And whether or not that is mathematically true, if you were to actually track it the whole way through the series, I don't know. But especially when Perry has been the companion, it certainly felt true. And so that felt like a really fair call out. And I wish there was a bit more of that. Some of the stuff that the Valyard throws out there feels very bad faith and feels manipulative. But every now and then they hit on something like, no, actually, that's a good point. Actually, that is pretty fair. And there was something that I kind of wish the Valyard had jumped on, because I was like, boy, if I was in a courtroom, I'd jump on that immediately, which is that the Doctor tries to defend some of his actions by saying, but it would have been worse if I hadn't been there. Basically trying to pull the, it worked out okay in the end, therefore it's okay I broke the rules. Basically banking on the outcome being a good one in some way, as being acceptable, that he's flaunting all the rules. And if you care about those rules, no, that doesn't make it okay. Especially when you don't know for certain that it is going to be better. You just get lucky a lot. And I kind of wish the Valyard had pointed that out. But anyway, and I'll also note, I feel like some of the lamp shading that is done of the show itself by the framing device is a little bit better here, because like there's a cliffhanger, I think it's the episode 3 cliffhanger, that shows Perry and Brian Bless's character and a bunch of other people get gunned down, and that's the cliffhanger. And it comes back the next episode and the Doctor's like, she's dead, and the Valyard's like, no, she lived. And the judge immediately is going, then why did you even show that? What was the point of that? And so I like, that's the kind of lampshading I'm here for, where the show's calling out its own format, being like, what the hell was the point of that cliffhanger if nobody's actually dead? You just wasted everybody's time, which is kind of the inherent problem with cliffhangers, especially on a show like Doctor Who was at the time, where you were expected to end every episode with a cliffhanger. And a lot of them, most of them, are garbage. So that was kind of fun. The ending's weird. The ending's real weird. And the thing is, while at time of recording, I have not watched the next segment yet, the next part of Trial of a Time Lord, I know that this doesn't really fully properly get resolved. We see part of what happens. We get told something that happens, but we don't see it. And the next story is just gonna kind of skip it. And that having to do with the ultimate fate of Perry. This would be the thing I would consider most spoilerish, I suppose. She gets Kiv's consciousness put into her head. And it appears to work. And, well, first of all, her performance is actually quite good. I like this. Classic Era does possessed companions decently a couple times. This Tegan as well, from like Snake Dance. But it ends with this proclamation that the Time Lords have to arrange for her to die, because this technology of being able to just transfer a consciousness from a body to a new body, and the way that would upset the natural order, cannot be allowed. Which, I mean, that's an argument to be made, certainly. But it's shot in a way that doesn't make it completely clear if she did die. And if she did, that's... like I said, the show seems to hate Perry. And I know there's going to be some, like, a line or something to kind of cover for this later. I don't know exactly what it is, and I'll deal with that when it comes up. When watched within the framework of, oh, I really wonder how they're going to pick up on that and where that's going, there is actually not really anything wrong with this ending. But knowing that the next episode, the next story, isn't going to pick up on it, that's actually kind of screwed up. It honestly reminds me of a lot of the stuff from Chibnall's era that drove me absolutely up the wall. There was a lot of stuff, especially when I started rewatching it, that I'm like, boy, I was a lot more forgiving of this thing that you did back when I thought it was going somewhere. I was a lot more forgiving of this dangling plot thread, of this thing not being properly explained at the time, because I thought you were going to come back to it and deal with it properly, and you never did. And yeah, that's... Given that, so, funny how this works out. Given that at time of recording, I am soon going to begin my Flux rewatch, but schedule of release, you will have already seen me do my Flux rewatch. It is kind of interesting that these attempts at serialization kind of suffers from similar issues, at least to my memory of Flux. Hopefully that ends up being true. So, because as I said, even though that'll get released first, I'm recording this first. But anyway, so yeah, Mind Warp. Wonkiness of the ending, which again, within the confines of this story, isn't awful. It was completely dependent on follow-up, which, again, my understanding, I'll find out for certain when I do the next one, to my understanding, didn't really happen. Other than that, this is actually pretty solid. This might be one of the most solid Sixth Doctor stories that I've seen. Not heard. Big Finish does Sixth Doctor so much better. But seen, certainly. It's got solid performances. The jankiness is in the more adorable realm. What jankiness there isn't nearly as much as you'd expect. Decent performances from the guest cast, from the core cast, the intrigue of, the unreliability because the Doctor doesn't really remember. There's enough little layers and tweaks here that a lot of elements that often don't work for the Sixth Doctor actually kind of work here, or at least come as close to working as I've ever seen them. I kind of like this one. Weird. Mind Warp. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Why did I roll the R? Seventh Doctor does that, not six. Anyway, Patreon's how I pay the bills and enables me to do this as my living. If you are not able to support me that way, like, share, subscribe are also of great assistance. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here so you can come on back next time you need a break. Massive thanks to my Patreon supporters, and in particular, I want to thank Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfullah, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Ruth, Oliver B., Solitary Pictures, Ulrich Bogdan, Melinda Walters, Jen, Leotha Boyd, Auntie Kate 808, Becky Sparks, Fernabilax the Poodle, Robin Powell, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Kasparov, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, David Hall, Shayla Gourlay, and Rosalind Bennett. Thanks for your support. You can get your name in the credits too if you feel like hearing me possibly struggle with it for several times before getting it right.